Step back three. Oh, she hit it and draws the foul. Welcome back, Caitlin Clark.
I always wanted Geno to call me just because he's Geno. Like, he's one of the best coaches of all time.
If you're a college player and you're a great college player, like Caitlin was, the delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying the disrespect that they've shown to the WNBA. There's a huge target on this kid's back. Okay, this kid's coming into the league. And Diana said it best. This kid's in for a rude awakening.
Like Geno Auriemma could be the reason why Caitlin Clark is definitely not joining the unrivaled 3-on-3 basketball.
Revenge isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it arrives calm, calculated, and deadly quiet. For Caitlin Clark, payback was never about clapping back online or throwing shade in front of cameras. She chose a colder route. One decision said everything. She declined the call. She turned down Geno Auriemma, walked away from UConn's history and reputation, and rejected a 7-figure offer that suddenly appeared after years of silence. Auriemma, the legendary UConn women's basketball coach and now an investor in Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 women's league founded by former Husky stars Nafisa Collier and Breanna Stewart, represented the familiar UConn power structure flexing its influence once again. To most people, it made no sense. 8 weeks of basketball for more than $1 million usually gets signed before the ink dries. But this offer was never just about money. It felt more like a rescue rope from an establishment that once overlooked her, minimized her, and treated her as if she was never truly that important.
Like I said earlier, they actually had odds that, she was like 3rd or 4th in the betting odds to be MVP of the WNBA. That's such a slap in the face to every WNBA player. It's unbelievable.
By saying no, Clark didn't just reject a contract. She stripped away his leverage. That's why this moment matters beyond the court. This isn't a highlight reel story. It's about control and who truly holds it. For decades, Geno Auriemma sat at the center of women's basketball, deciding which players mattered and which ones faded out. His program shaped careers, and his approval was treated as everything. Caitlin Clark proved it wasn't. She built her momentum without his system, without his voice, and without his resources. When he finally reached out, the roles had already flipped. The power had changed hands. Her response said everything without saying anything at all. She no longer needed connection. Every revenge story traces back to a single mistake, and Geno's wasn't tactical, it was personal. He underestimated her.
That's the worst part about new fans. They have no perspective. There's no context. So they just say ridiculous.
Long before sold-out crowds and record-breaking ratings, Clark was just a young player chasing an opportunity. She said it herself. UConn felt like the dream destination, the dynasty, the place where legends were made, and the highest level of the game. For a kid growing up in Iowa, it didn't get any bigger than UConn. That was the dream. When recruiting season arrived, everything seemed perfectly aligned. The most electric talent of her generation paired with the most powerful recruiter the sport had ever known. On paper, it felt inevitable, but reality hit differently. The phone never rang. Geno never called.
I wanted UConn to recruit me. I always wanted Geno to call me just because he's Geno. Like, he's one of the best coaches of all time. Geno never called me.
He never reached out to Clark. He didn't contact her parents and barely pass along interest through an AAU coach. For someone known as the ultimate talent evaluator, that silence said everything, and it wasn't accidental. It was deliberate, sending a message she couldn't ignore. She wasn't priority. The explanation came later. UConn already had Paige Bueckers committed, and Geno claimed he didn't want 2 point guards. At first, it sounded reasonable, until it crossed a line. He suggested that if Clark truly wanted UConn, she should have called him. Let that sink in. A coach whose reputation was built on chasing generational talent decided she wasn't worth a phone call, then turned around and blamed a teenager for not pursuing him harder. That wasn't just a recruiting miss. It was a clear act of disrespect, the kind that stays with you. Clark didn't make noise about it. She didn't complain or campaign for attention. She remembered it. And if Geno didn't believe in her, she would find a place that did. That decision led her to Iowa, No dynasty banners, no automatic spotlight, no borrowed prestige. To outsiders, it looked like settling. To Clark, it was freedom.
Who would have thought that all those years ago back in Des Moines, Iowa, that this would be the case right now? And obviously we can see that it's done pretty darn well, and people are excited to see her play at every level.
At Iowa, she wasn't Paige's backup plan or Geno's forgotten option. She was a centerpiece. The program belonged to her. From the moment she stepped onto the court in Iowa City, everything shifted. Those deep logo shots weren't just highlights. They were statements. Packed arenas weren't hype. They were confirmation. Record-breaking TV numbers weren't luck. They were proof. Every bucket added pressure, and every viral clip, every shattered record sent the same quiet message. You let this slip? As the numbers piled up, Geno didn't reflect. He doubled down. Instead of respect, he leaned into dismissal, brushing her off with smug remarks, calling her a kid and suggesting she played like she was just messing around in a driveway, rather than acknowledge a once-in-a-generation force. He tried to shrink her game into something casual and small. But small doesn't fill Madison Square Garden. Small doesn't pull women's basketball into the mainstream. Small doesn't rewrite media deals or shift the culture. And that's where the irony hits hardest. Geno closed the door when Caitlin Clark knocked, assuming she would blend in and fade with time. Instead, she built the biggest brand the women's game has ever seen without him. And when he finally came back with a contract in his hand, Clark didn't lash out, celebrate, or explain herself. She simply said no. That single word cut deeper than any postseason loss.
There's a lot of investors in this league. One investor, been trying to keep quiet about, his investment in the league ever since his comments that he made about a young rookie. Pretty much, had him in the headlines for about a month and a half. That is Geno Auriemma, dog. I'm here to tell you, he's part owner of this league.
It cost him relevance, control, and the illusion that he still dictated the future of the sport. Yet, Geno couldn't let go. Anytime Clark's name surfaced, he found a way to tether her rise back to Paige Buecher's. If Clark played fearless, Paige did too. If Clark connected with fans, Paige had already done it. This wasn't coincidence. It was positioning. By attaching Clark's ascent to players from his system, Geno kept himself anchored in the conversation. But people caught on. Fans noticed. Analysts noticed. Coaches noticed. The pattern became obvious. Clark didn't need comparisons or disclaimers. She was drawing crowds larger than most pro teams, shattering records no one had touched, and reshaping how women's basketball was talked about. Meanwhile, Geno smiled for the cameras, quietly gripping a throne that was already slipping away. Beneath the polished image sat insecurity, the kind that creeps in when attention drifts and there's no way to pull it back. Over time, subtle jabs weren't enough. He shifted from quietly minimizing Clark to openly targeting the people who supported her. For months, it was criticism dressed up as analysis. Then came June 2024. During an appearance on the Dan Patrick Show, he crossed the line. The Hall of Fame coach, a figure meant to represent the highest standard of women's basketball, didn't just question Caitlin Clark's impact. He aimed a frustration at her supporters.
Fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go in that league and tear it apart. There were actually odds on she's third or fourth in betting odds on being MVP at the WNBA. These people are so disrespectful and so unknowledgeable and so stupid that it gives women's basketball a bad name. Okay, so the kid was set up for failure right from the beginning.
There was no nuance in what he said. Geno Auriemma labeled Caitlin Clark's fans as delusional, claimed they didn't understand the game, and even suggested their excitement was hurting women's basketball, all because they believed a rookie could finish near the top of MVP voting. At the same time, the sport was exploding. Sold-out arenas, record ratings, new fans flooding in. Instead of embracing that momentum, Geno pushed against it. Clark didn't respond online. She didn't argue. She answered on the court. Rookie of the Year, All WNBA First Team, fourth in MVP voting, exactly where her delusional fans said she'd be. And just like that, his take collapsed. As her impact grew, his grip on the narrative slipped. Then came the pivot. When talk no longer worked, money did. A new 3 on 3 league needed a face, and only one name could deliver instant credibility. So the same coach who once ignored her put over $1 million on the table. Clark saw it clearly. This was an opportunity. It was control. Her answer was simple. No. One word ended the conversation. No drama. No explanation. Just refusal. And with that, a message echoed across the sport. The future belongs to players, not the gatekeepers. Stay locked in with Courtside Leaks, because the next power shift is already happening.